These are my 6 audience members here to watch my speech today. What is an inventor? According to John Nixon, the author of The Invention of the Automobile, an inventor is not a person who invents, fails, disappears, and is forgotten, but one who produces something, develops it, and in the course of time, turns it to the purpose intended. When most people think of the word inventor, they associate the names of Leonardo da Vinci, Benjamin Franklin, Alexander Graham Bell, Thomas Edison, Henry Ford, the Wright brothers, and even Steve Jobs. Most people likely also think of the greatest inventions of these men, such as the light bulb, the telephone, the assembly line, and the first operational aircraft. In fact, many people incorrectly assume that Henry Ford invented the automobile. What Ford did was invent the assembly line, which made production of the automobile easier and thus made it more affordable to the common man. The true inventor of the automobile was a German engineer by the name of Karl Benz. His invention not only revolutionized the way that we traveled, it also led to a complete redesign of our entire infrastructure. The advent of the automobile allowed our communities to expand outward, as people could now travel greater distances in only a fraction of the time previously required. I spent the entire fall semester of this year researching Karl Benz's life and his legacy, and for this reason, I feel that I am an expert on the topic. With that in mind, I'd like to tell you the 3 key aspects to understanding Karl Benz. The first is his early life and how it molded him into the entrepreneur that he would ultimately become. The second are the multitude of successes and failures that Benz had to endure. And lastly is his legacy, what each of us can take away from his life story today. Karl Benz was born November 25, 1844 in the small town of Karlsruhe, Germany. When he was only 2 years old, his father died of a severe disease, leaving he and his mother to fend for themselves. With this dynamic, Karl Benz was forced to function as an entrepreneur from an early age. Near his hometown, there was a forest, in which there was a remote village, with people who had no access to photography. So young Benz went out and purchased a camera. He would travel into that forest and photograph the people, their homes, and important town structures, develop the photos, and then sell them back to the villagers. It was in this manner that Benz provided for himself and for his mother. At age 17, Karl Benz went to college to study engineering. And while at college, he received the inspiration for what would become his life's work, the horseless carriage. When Karl Benz was in his late 20s, he moved to the town of Mannheim, Germany with his wife. There, he invested his entire life savings to open his own company, where he believed he could pursue his dreams. However, Benz was in way over his head. In fact, on the very night that he completed building his first engine, he did not have enough money left over to provide dinner for his family. According to the book, Engineers, From the Great Pyramids to the Pioneers of Space Travel, written by John Fagin, Karl Benz founded a new company with investors, and this company gave him the necessary affluence and political clout to pursue a dream as crazy as the horseless carriage. In the spring of the year 1885, Karl Benz had his first designs built, a tricycle with 2 rear wheels powered by the internal combustion engine and 1 front wheel utilized to steer. Karl Benz knew that if he presented this design to the public before it was perfect and it failed, nobody would want to buy it. Therefore, Benz decided to carry out tests on the automobile for months in secret on a small dirt track behind his factory. Finally, in the autumn of 1885, Karl Benz had achieved the perfection that he was looking for. However, his first public presentation was a miserable failure. First off, he could not get the engine to start for several minutes. Then, when the engine finally did start, he was so overcome with emotion that he drove it down a hill straight into a brick wall, severely damaging the front end. Everyone was laughing at him and saying that the car had not even powered itself, that Benz had simply rolled it down a hill. But he did not give up. He worked for several weeks to fix the engine problem and repair the front end, and his second public presentation was a wild success. He tore off down the streets of Mannheim and became newspaper famous overnight. Despite this wild fame, his worst fear was realized. He presented the automobile to the public before it was perfect, and it failed. Now, no one wanted to buy it. Karl Benz would have to wait 2 years before making his first sale. A man from Paris, France named Emile Roger purchased the first automobile in the year 1887. 2 years later, in 1889, there was an exhibition in Paris for new scientific discoveries. There, Karl Benz put his automobile on display for the world to see. After this, he was selling to wealthy men from every major nation. However, once again, this success was very short-lived. Another automotive maker had come on the scene. a man by the name of Karl who produced a car called the Mercedes Maybach. When the public got hold of the two men's cars, they wanted certain things changed, added, or removed. Karl Benz, feeling that he was a great engineer who had perfected the automobile, refused to change with the times. Karl, who was a superb businessman, was willing to change his car each and every day to appease the public. For this reason, Daimler's business skyrocketed, while Benz's plummeted into the ground. With the declining success of his automobile, Karl Benz had a lot of time to think. One of the key realizations that he came to was that by competing with one another, he and Daimler were only hurting themselves. Why not combine Karl Benz's engineering expertise with Karl Daimler's business sense and create the perfect company? Finally, after years of litigation, on June 29, 1926, the automotive giant that we all know today, Mercedes-Benz, was born. At the time, Karl Benz was 82 years old, and the company served to solidify his legacy and immortalize his name in history. With this in mind, I'd like to tell you about Karl Benz's legacy, which I believe is threefold. First is his life's work, an invention that we all know and love today, the automobile. Second is the company that bears his name today, Mercedes-Benz. Their slogan is the best or nothing. This slogan serves to continue Karl Benz's life's work of automotive perfection. The last part of his legacy, and perhaps the most important, is the philosophy that he embodied, that no is never the final answer, and that giving up is never an option. Remember the three key aspects to understanding Karl Benz that I told you about today. His early life and how it molded him into the entrepreneur that he would ultimately become. His multitude of successes and failures that he had to endure over his life. And lastly, his legacy. His legacy is the reason that I feel that Karl Benz is so much more than simply the inventor of the automobile. He's a maker of our modern world. Karl Benz is a vision of hope and a vision of the future. He serves as a symbol of what each and every one of us can become if we truly believe in ourselves. I firmly believe that Karl Benz will be proud of how far the automobile has come today. Seemingly light years in just under 100 years. But a little part of me can't help but think that Karl Benz would still prefer to drive his original 1885 tricycle.